बाज की सागर झंझार की जल की अंगार से साहिल मझधार की बागी जल्लाद की दोस्ती किस ओर चली ये आंधी.
In this video, I want to review an Indian propaganda movie, RRR, Rise, Roar, Revolt. And before I tell you why to me personally this movie is so interesting, and it's coming from a guy that lives in Europe, to be more specifically in the Balkan region of Europe. But I want to explain to you why is this movie such a big deal for India. The director of this movie is actually the first Indian director that tries to do pan-Indian movies, and by pan-Indian I mean movies that are equally made for all parts of India. So we are talking about a Tollywood movie. It's not even a Bollywood movie, but it's made for all people of India. And as the song says that you just heard a few moments ago, the East and West have come together. But the song, of course, is talking about the eastern part of India and a western part of India represented by one of the characters. So they come from different parts of India and they're united in this movie. In this movie, definitely it is a nationalist propaganda, although that doesn't mean that it's a bad movie, nor does that mean that I disagree with its message. Its message is primarily anti-colonial and anti-British, which is kind of funny because had this movie been produced in the West, it would be called woke. But this way, this movie is actually a nationalist propaganda movie, since the movie is Indian and since the director is kind of famous for making patriotic movies. And this movie actually reminds me of communist propaganda movies that are, let's say, quite popular in my homeland, although people do watch them with irony. So yeah, the scenes in which one Indian dude kills like 100 British soldiers are, of course, what makes this nationalist propaganda, and also the fact that the British are portrayed kind of like the Nazis, which, while it's not necessarily untrue, since they did do some pretty messed up things, like the Bengal famine, like just Google Bengal famine if you want to know, but yeah, still, a movie could have taken a more nuanced view, perhaps, of entire history of colonialism. But okay, that's not the idea behind the movie. The idea is to have a strong nationalist message that will unite India. And what people often forget, people from the West, that nationalism can also be a force for good, not just something that causes war. Because in parts of Africa and Asia, I would argue wars often occur as a result of a lack of nationalism. For example, in Ethiopia, tribal identity and religious identity is often stronger, which then leads to the state being unstable. And many other African countries have this very same problem. So one could say that a lack of nationalism in Africa is actually leading to all these crazy wars, because Africa is actually one of the most ethnically homogeneous, so I want to say heterogeneous places in the world. One of the places with the highest diversity of ethnicities, that is Africa and also some parts of Asia. So this movie is definitely trying to unite people. It is primarily made for an Indian audience. But what is interesting about this movie is that it also became quite successful in the West and in China. And I think that this movie is very successful in the West and also liked in the West because the West suffers, I would argue, perhaps from a problem that many other parts of the world, not only do they not suffer from it, but they suffer from an opposite problem, one could say. So as a response to all these Western propaganda movies like the Green Berets, a famous John Wayne movie about America spreading freedom and happiness in Vietnam, the West has become very cynical with its movies, and Western movies are rarely truly patriotic, and they rarely truly believe in their epic patriotic message. So yeah, Hollywood movies have become in recent years more, maybe let's say, critical of their societies than the opposite. And I'm not saying that's a bad thing, but I do want to see diversity in movies. What's so beautiful about movies is that they're diverse, and there are all these different types of movies. And to me, it even appears that for a long time we actually did not see an epic like Braveheart, for example, that's nationalist but in a good way, and also truly epic. And while many Balkan countries are still suffering from the opposite problem, and that is they produce ultra nationalist propaganda movies, those movies are just not as good as RRR, nor do they have this strong human connection, I would say, because RRR at the end of the day, it's about friendship. It's about friendship of these two characters, and the movie asks a very deep question, and that is, will this friendship be stronger than different paths that they decided to take in achieving their political goals, which is kind of it is an eternal topic. It is almost like watching a Greek myth, although I would say a Greek myth on cocaine. That is how I would describe this movie, and I definitely would highly recommend this movie. I liked how crazy it was, and I liked the fact that it was so epic and that it actually did take itself quite seriously. Okay, don't forget to like, share and subscribe if you liked this video.